After a natural disaster hits, we typically see federal aid money come through to the affected areas. But under the second Trump administration, this standard process could change. And that change could come soon as California looks for help to recover from the wildfires. To break it down for us, we're joined now by the Hill's White House correspondent, Alex Gangitano. Alex, let's start with President Trump's interview on Fox News. He said he believes that aid to California should be conditional, which is typically what we don't see in these scenarios. Take a listen to what Trump had to say about FEMA.
FEMA is getting in the way of everything. All it does is complicate everything. FEMA has not done their job for the last 4 years. I'd rather see the states take care of their own problems.
And just for a little bit of context here, the top recipients of FEMA money from 2015 through April 2024 include Florida with $2.5 billion, Louisiana with $2.4 billion, and Texas with $2.1 billion, which happen to also be 3 red states. Is that a reason why he might be treating California differently?
Right. When I was looking at those numbers, too, it's definitely noticeable that these are red states that get the most FEMA funding. One of them happens to be his home state of Florida. But I think he's treating California differently for a large number of issues, but including because he has been sparring with Governor Gavin Newsom, who is, maybe considered somebody who would run for president in 2028, be, a top leader in the Democratic Party as they're looking to rebuild. And so we've seen, a back and forth online and with Newsom in interviews and with Trump saying, blaming Newsom for the situation in his state, Newsom saying not to play politics during this. So I think a lot will come out of this meeting when Trump is headed to the Los Angeles region tomorrow. We can figure out if the two of them are even in the same room, if the two of them come to some consensus about aid, as Newsom's waiting to see what Congress does about federal aid for his state. But this is definitely different. I mean, when we saw during the President Biden time in the White House, he had often said, doesn't matter if you're a red state or a blue state. We saw him on the ground with, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at times, who's obviously a leader in the Republican Party, and just stressing that this is not about politics. So the way that this, that the Trump team has geared up for this visit does feel a little bit different.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that visit goes. I want to move on now to his cabinet nominations, especially nominees like Pete Hegseth, who's had a lot of controversy surrounding him. It looks like he's still been able to push forward with little resistance, though. It looks like he sort of has a smooth path ahead despite some of these controversies that have been surrounding him. Even with a possible final vote on Friday, again, despite these accusations, what should we expect to come of this, do you think?
Yeah, Republicans have said that they think they have the votes in their party. They might not, get any Democratic votes. It's not going to look like Secretary of State Marco Rubio's vote, which he got every Democrat to support him. I think this will definitely be along party lines. But if Republicans think they have a vote, they're full steam ahead trying to get him confirmed and not dissuaded by some of these allegations of abuse against Pete Hegseth. And I do think part of the reason why they're moving so quickly is to end this confirmation process, because it's been such a long time coming. We've seen, allegation against him. It seems like there's a new one again and again, and I think Republicans are ready to put an end to that and want to just get him confirmed so they can deliver a win for Trump here.
Yes, Republicans definitely want that, but they are accusing the Democrats of sort of getting in the way, right? And not just with Pete Hegseth. There is CIA Director hopeful John Ratcliffe and Kristi Noem, all that Republicans are trying to push through. But today, Senate Majority Leader John Thune had this to say to Democrats. Take a listen.
If Democrats want to spend their nights and weekends taking votes on uncontroversial nominees, we can do it that way. But one way or the other, these nominees will be confirmed.
So can you explain that here? How are Democrats trying to sort of slow down this process? And also would love to know where Tulsi Gabbard's nomination sits right now, because that's been another one surrounded by controversy, right?
Yeah, so they've been trying to slow down this process now with Trump in office and last week before he was officially sworn in by basically saying we need more information. We need the FBI or the background check reports into these nominees, and that's something that they were trying with Tulsi Gabbard and successfully delaying her a little bit, saying we need these background checks and we need to be able to get just more information overall about her. I think right now she continues to be the most controversial of the Trump nominees. She's up for Director of National Intelligence, and I think a lot of it has to do with her past comments about, some foreign adversaries. A lot has to do with if she's qualified for the role. And I think Democrats have been more successful with slowing down hers than with Hegseth or Radcliffe, because some Republicans are skeptical behind closed doors from what we've learned about Gabbard, whereas somebody like a Radcliffe, he's already been confirmed for a top position. He was Trump's Director of National Intelligence during his first term, and I think they're ready to move him forward, and Democrats kind of have to choose their battles here of who they continue to try to push back on.
Well, one thing that some Democrats and Republicans are agreeing on these days is RFK Jr.'s nomination and not wanting that one to go through, although it's for different reasons, right? On the right, you have the Pence founded group funding an ad campaign mainly due to Pence's social conservatism and his view on abortion. And then you have a Democratic aligned group called Protect Our Care spending $1 million on another campaign. Does it seem like either of those efforts are working so far or could work?
Yeah, he's another one. As I mentioned, Gabbard's controversial. I think he'd be the second most controversial nominee. And it's interesting that Mike Pence has gotten involved at all, former vice president, but him trying to appeal to the conservative base and say, this is somebody who's a former Democrat. He is not this pro-life conservative by any means. He is, more of has an interesting background that he's very open about that can be a bit controversial. And so I think Pence is trying to appeal to the more conservative wing of the party, whereas I think Democrats are just concerned about him overall and what his nomination and what his potential confirmation could mean for vaccines and medicines and what the pharmaceutical company could look like and an industry could look like. And they've been concerned about him for months now. So if Pence can actually persuade some conservatives to come out and say you're not conservative enough for the head of a major health industry, I think that could be really notable.
Yeah, and like you said, his view on vaccines really seems like it could be a sticking point for some lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, because he has had some pretty radical views in the past.
That's right.
Alex Gangitano, White House correspondent, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just weeks after 6 separate fires broke out across Los Angeles County within 48 hours, killing at least 25 and burning more than 15,000 structures, another major fire ignited Wednesday in the northern part of the county. The Hughes Fire, fueled by high winds, has already consumed more than 10,000 acres. While firefighters say they've been able to begin to contain this fire more quickly than the Palisades or Eaton fires, the danger is far from over. News Nation's Xavier Walton is on the ground with the latest.
So the Hughes Fire is about an hour north of LA, right on the edge of LA County. And when you pull back, you could really see just how massive the fire is. The Hughes Fire, officials say, started just over there. You could see it kind of smoldering on the other side of the lake. And then above there, you can see another small fire. Fire officials say they're worried about flare-ups, and they're watching and monitoring hot spots as the winds may pick up later on this afternoon. Two things that really helped firefighters in their efforts here to fight this fire. Proximity. Look how close they are to the water right there. They were doing countless water drops, just pulling water from the lake and then dousing it onto the fire. Another thing, they had more than 4,000 firefighters fighting this fire. That's how they were able to get control, so to speak. Right now, only 14% contained. One more thing I want to point out, as you look over here, this is how high the flames were. If you take a look at some of the power poles, some of them you can notice they've been burned down the hill. Some have snapped in half because they caught fire. That shows you just how high those flames were. Firefighters up against the wind playing a big factor. Another challenge. Take a listen to this.
I know I told the story earlier of a situation in the Altadena area where we were directing people to evacuate, and they refused to. And the deputy felt that they were in such danger that he actually threatened them with arrest. There was an argument between a wife and a husband. Wife saying, hey, we should listen. They listened, they left, and they are now crediting the deputy sheriff for saving their life because that house and neighborhood completely burned down. Those are the challenges that we face.
Obviously a big challenge with thousands of people evacuated. Another challenge officials are worried about The red flag warning still in effect tomorrow because the winds are expected to pick up. We're talking gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Bianca?
Xavier Walton, thank you so much and stay safe. A man pardoned by President Trump earlier this week for his role in the January 6th Capitol riot is back in custody today on gun charges. Daniel Ball was charged in May 2023 with 12 different counts tied to the 2021 attack on the Capitol. He was one of the more than 1,500 defendants who were pardoned by Trump on Tuesday. The new indictment against him charges him with possessing a firearm as a convicted felon. It mentions 2 previous convictions, a 2017 conviction for domestic violence and a 2021 conviction for battering and resisting law enforcement. Ball is believed to be the first January 6th rioter to face additional legal trouble after being pardoned. Wholesale club Costco is defending its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies after a shareholder proposal urged the company to evaluate business risks posed by the practices. That proposal was made by a conservative think tank, which argued the company's DEI initiatives hold litigation, reputational, and financial risks to the company and its shareholders. The Costco's board of directors voted unanimously to ask shareholders to reject the motion, saying the company's commitment to respect and inclusion was appropriate and necessary, and that the evaluation wouldn't provide meaningful additional information. The think tank has made a similar proposal to other U.S. companies too, like Apple. Costco investors were expected to vote on the proposal Thursday during the company's annual meeting. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Bianca Facchinei. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.